Oh my God, this year.
Just on November the 15th. That's next week. You could just have a little stand. Or
Cassandra.
you don't know who to put it
Just,
right here.
is there another tripod?
Let me ask.
And then we put all of our names on the back. Or maybe I could just put it down there when I get ready to go off.
Just thinking, because it looks so.
Okay, that's all right. I'll just put it there. This is the birthday party.
On this side.
Yeah. It's every day is before we pass.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, those of you all that are here with your mask on, socially distanced here. Those of you all that are watching at home on Zoom, YouTube, or other platforms that have come today to honor the memory of our brother and our friend, none other than Mr. Anthony Lee Brickhouse. And not only to honor him in this memorial service, but to also celebrate his life, to know that he lived a good life, and that he left nothing on the table, but he gave it all, his all every day. And so if you don't mind, just please, just those of you at home and those of you all that are in here, do you mind just putting your hands together just a little bit as we celebrate his life? As we honor him and thank God for giving us him for this moment. We are here to celebrate somebody who has lived a life of celebration. And we hope that this service will also mimic that life of celebratory stature. I am Purvis Blake. I am the Vice President of Academics for an Achievable Dream Academy, the greatest organization on earth behind Ringling Brothers. Since they're no longer, we are the greatest organization on earth. I have had the pleasure to work with Mr. Brickhouse. I met him in 2006 when I first came to Newport News as a security officer. And I remember, Jeff, our first handle with care training, is where we had, kind of use some of our tactics, to safely stop situations. I remember seeing this guy, and I was like, who's that guy with all that energy? And what is he drinking? And they're like, no, he's not drinking. You'll see him. That's him every day. That is him every day. And sure enough, as the years come by, he has never, ever let me down. He had a way of scaring people when I was talking with coworkers too, and he would come in the building, the first thing you see, you open the door, Mr. Brickhouse speaking to you. He called people doctor, and so he would call me Dr. Blake. And every time he'd see me, Dr. Blake, good, you need anything? Oh, Mr. Brickhouse, I'm good, And so we would come in and I would go to see them on the program and the social rotations and so forth. And I'm ready to leave the building and my head is down and my brain is spinning. I think about the day and all of a sudden, and I'm like, Brickhouse, you got to give me a warning, something like that before you just do that thing. And it came kind of turned into a little game. I got wise. And so when I left the gym and the classes, I would peek. Where is it? I don't want to get scared. So just when I think the coast is clear, I'm walking, all right, here we go. Dr. Blake, oh, man, all right, I just gave up, but that was his spirit, full of life every single moment. He knew that any time could be his time. And so he didn't want to let a single moment pass without impacting one life every single day. So it says something when you have a memorial service, even virtually when you have not tens, but hundreds of people that have come to celebrate his life. At this time, we're going to open it up, and we have a few speakers that's going to speak on behalf of, speak for Mr. Brickhouse. As always, in the sake of time, we have that to the 2 to 3 minute time for reflections. Now, I know we've all been in places where they say the 2 to 3 minutes and it turn to 20 and 30 minutes. Hopefully that doesn't happen here, but if we do, we have Sabrina who has Bluetooth with the music, like the awards. We saw the music, the players play a song. At this time, we're going to have, first up is Dr. Lee Reeland, who will speak on behalf of Achievable Dream, CEO and President of Achievable Dream. Dr. Lee.
As always, when I speak behind Mr. Blake, I always have to lower the microphone quite a bit. John Lennon once said, when I was 5, my mom told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wrote down, be happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. Mr. Brickhouse understood life. He was the epitome of happiness, and he spread that happiness to anyone that he met. He lived every day as it was the best. He made everyone feel as they were the most important. He knew every dreamer and alumni by name. To this day, Mr. Blake, Ms. Richardson, none of us talked to alumni all the way back to the class of 2001, where they don't always consistently ask about one person. And that's Mr. Brickhouse. The number of alumni who would still stop by here and see him. He was so many things to so many people. He was a mentor. He was the sunshine on a cloudy day, but he touched each and every dreamer who entered this building. His twirls started your morning off perfectly. I can't imagine not being twirled by Mr. Brickhouse in the morning. If you were having a bad day and you had time, this is where you started your morning. If you weren't feeling quite right, you came here first because Mr. Brickhouse was going to change it. Words are inadequate to express the huge void in our dream family. He was as much a part of the dream as the dream was of him. Dreamers were his joy, and in doing what he loved every day, he brought joy and love to so many students, teachers, staff, and faculty. In fact, the entire Southeast community. You didn't have to go to an achievable dream to know Mr. Brickhouse, to know what he meant to the community or what he meant to an achievable dream. Our lives and the dream will never be the same without him, but the dream will forever be changed because of him. We know that Mr. Brickhouse would want us to honor his happiness and the joy-filled life that he lived by celebrating the wonderful times with him. He would want us to keep laughing, most certainly to keep dreaming, and to keep dancing. We're going to continue to twirl in the morning and greet each other in the way that Mr. Brickhouse would want us to do. Once a dreamer, always a dreamer. We love you, Mr. Brickhouse.
Thank you, Dr. Reeland, for those words of memory for Mr. Brickhouse, and reminding us to carry on what he has started. At this time, we're going to bring for reflections, principal of an Achievable Dream Academy, a longtime co-worker of Mr. Brickhouse, Principal Tara Harris.
Good afternoon. Let us acknowledge that this afternoon is not a day of mourning, yet a day of rejoicing, one of celebration and adoration of a gentle giant that was easy to love, who brought happiness to generations upon generations, and had a smile that would brighten the darkest of days. We know him by so many names: Tony, Brick, Mr. Brickhouse, Officer Brickhouse, and countless others. But from this day forward, he will be forever Brickhouse. It has been nothing less than a pleasure to serve alongside Mr. Brickhouse for the last 8 years. I am sure the previous principals of this amazing school share the same sentiments as I, as the current principal, that Mr. Brickhouse was a servant leader. The servant leader is a servant first. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve and serve first. Let's reflect on a few servant leadership characteristics: a listener, empathetic, relationship builder, awareness, and commitment. Just a few nouns, verbs, and adjectives that describe Mr. Brickhouse to a perfect T. Mr. Brickhouse's service spanned from greeting staff members at the back door upon their arrival, to walking them to their cars after a long yet productive day, to conversations with our young dreamers who needed a safe place, accompanied by long walks and talks, to greeting families at meal distribution with his infectious smile, to the bellowing hoots and hollers at our holiday parties,
All right now.
and shout outs at staff meetings. He was our hype man. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave, ensuring we were safe and all of our simplest needs were met. Earlier, I mentioned the word commitment as a characteristic of servant leadership. Mr. Brickhouse's commitment to the school community, its mission and vision, was undoubtedly unmatched. To have an impact spanning 3 decades on children, their parents, aunts, uncles, and even their grandparents is not an easy feat. It spoke volume of his love for this program and every person who graced these halls. I leave you with this. Tile 1 and Tile 2 are forever immortal and ingrained with his spiritual presence. As he stood proud on Tile 1 and Tile 2, he stretched his hands tall to encourage our dreamer boys to give the biggest of high fives. And to our dreamer girls, those countless twirls will not go unnoticed. Always saying graciously, "Hey, beautiful." He will be missed, but definitely celebrated for his love, life, and laughter that was very much him and so very appreciated. Thank you for serving, Mr. Brickhouse, for committing to the school community. We are forever indebted, and you are forever Brickhouse.
Thank you, Principal Harris, for those words as well, and for reminding us that he will always live on with us on Tiles 1 and 2. And then also reminding us what it is and what it means to be a servant leader. Thank you for that. Now we will have Dr. Jeff Nelson coming for reflections on behalf of People News Security.
Good morning. I come to you today just to give some brief reflections on Mr. Brickhouse as it meant to us in the security department. Mr. Brickhouse is one of a kind. Mr. Brickhouse was a man of character, was a professional in carrying out all of his duties. Mr. Brickhouse worked at an Achievement Training Academy, formerly known as Dunbar Airborne, for 33 years. To see Mr. Brickhouse in action was amazing to watch. His greetings, his talks, dancing made everyone's day. To know him was to love him. Mr. Brickhouse shared one of Maya Angelou's quotes to me several times. That was one of my favorite to encourage me when I visit. And it is, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I also believe that Maya Angelou said it best, and it's fitting for Mr. Brickhouse. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles. It leaps fences. It penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. Mr. Brickhouse provided a nurturing environment to the administrators, the faculty, staff, and more importantly, an Achievable Dream Academy students. We talked about life, and one song he brought up to me was "I Shall Wear a Crown." When it is all over, I shall see his face. When it's all over, I'm going to be put on my robe and tell my story, how I made it over, as soon as I get home. Rest assured, Mr. Brickhouse may be gone from this earthly realm, but he will never be forgotten as he has gained his wings to heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson, for those words and for, the quote that he lived by, and not just lip service from him, but through his action, and thank you for saying, "I shall wear a crown," when it's all said and done, when it's all over, I'm going to put on my robe and tell my story. So we know now he's guarding that heavenly gate, telling his story. You know, so thank you for that. That definitely touched the heart. So, at this time, we're going to bring up a former co-worker and longtime friend, Mr. Brickhouse, to give his reflections, Mr. Mike Kessler.
Mr. Brickhouse was loud. My wife, Melissa, and my friend group from college would call that a penetrating glimpse into the obvious. He was so loud that puts everyone on speakerphone just so I can hear the other person on the line. Never had to do it with him. I could be on the first floor and my wife would come downstairs and tell me his side of the conversation. Mr. Brickhouse is animated. Who hasn't seen him do that little half skip, first step to hurry over to someone, drop down on one knee like he was seeing royalty, just to greet them hello? Who hasn't seen him enter a room and ensure that he acknowledges every single person with a giant hug, handshake, or wave? And as he makes his way through the group, you can't help but smile because you know he will get to you soon. He was loud and animated, even when some would consider it inappropriate. For example, we would go to listen to some acoustic music, and there would be about 30 people listening, and at the end of a song, 29 people would politely clap. Maybe even an occasional woo or yeah. But one person would be clapping 20 times louder than everyone else, hooting and hollering and doing that 2-finger whistle that I never was quite sure if he couldn't do or if he was just faking it for effect. Everyone would turn to look at him, then back to the singer who would be blushing and grinning and calling him out with thanks. At first, people who didn't know him might be thinking that he was trying to draw attention to himself. Who does he think he is? The sun that the earth revolves around? The answer to that is yes. He was the sun. What does the sun do? Provides warmth and light. And that was his mission in life. When he talked to you, he treated you as if you were something special, filling you with warmth from within and without. He shined his light on you so that others could see you in all of your glory. That's what the sun does. And that's what Mr. Brickhouse did. But the best times were in those quiet moments. Yes, there were quiet moments. Like driving home from a movie or sharing a meal with him and maybe 1 or 2 other people. Sitting in the dump and bump room talking. Listening to him speak on hometown heroes. Those were the sunset moments. The beautiful times when he showed you the deepest colors, his thoughts and feelings, the sincerity and care for others. It will be best said by a friend of his, Wes, the pastor's kid, who sent me some thoughts to share. Here's what he said. Brickhouse, just the name of it intrigues you, but it always tells you who he is. Without looking at a dictionary, one would probably define the word brickhouse as something solid, sturdy, strong, safe. Yet when you think of the man we know as Brickhouse, you would also add these words: reliable, loyal, warm, funny, welcoming. Brickhouse was all of these words and much more. He invited you into his world and gave you a feeling of comfort and knowing that we all want to feel. He made you feel at home. And home forever lives in our hearts, as will Brick. We will always love you, my brother. Your light will never dim. Rest easy, my friend. It's from Wesley Williams. And for me, I will truly miss Mr. Brickhouse. I'm just fortunate that I got to be in his orbit for some time.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler, for those heartfelt words of reflection, and you spoke about mission. You know, he knew his mission, what his mission will be, that he will forever live on with us. So thank you for those words. This time we bring forth another long-term friend, Mr. Ed Krawcheck, to give his reflections and for Mr. Brickhouse.
Good afternoon. You see, it's not quite the same when it doesn't come from Anthony Brickhouse.
That's right.
No one could quite do it as good as him. 2 minutes. I said, try and keep it at 2 minutes. Tell me, each and every one of you, how you could come up here and actually talk for just 2 minutes about Anthony Brickhouse. Everybody has a different vision, memory, something that they wanted to share. Some things that were the same as everyone else, because after all, we are talking about Anthony Brickhouse, who shared with everyone. For me, I didn't prepare a speech. I came here and I figured I'd figure out what to say when I was up here. I can tell you in my lifetime, sorry. I can tell you in my lifetime that I have met 5 amazing men in my life. One was my grandfather, one was my father. My brother-in-law was an amazingly smart man. He married the greatest sister in the world. That amazing man that just spoke, Michael Kessler, and of course, Anthony Brickhouse. My brother-in-law, Michael and Anthony, know things about me that will go to the grave because we will never share them. He was a truly amazing man. To sum it up, so many times I'm retired military, people would come and say, thank you for your service. And I got so tired of hearing it, I used to tell people, if you want to thank a veteran for their service, be a better American. Sorry. Excuse me. If you want to honor the memory of Anthony Brickhouse, be a better person, be a better father, a better mother, a better son, a better daughter, a better coworker. Just be better. And share the joy of being better with other people. Don't be afraid to interact with people, to show them and have fun with them. Because I guarantee you, this man is looking down at you and saying, good job. For me, he was part of a group. I wasn't as fortunate as Michael, who knew him for over 2 decades. I knew him for just a few short years. But he became one of my closest friends and confidants, and I love the man. God, I love him dearly. He was my brother. He was my righteous brother, along with Michael Kessler, and he will always be such. So forgive me if I end. He was part of a group that we called the Wolf Pack, and we honored everyone in that pack for whatever they did with a howl. So Michael, if you'll help me. Anthony, or as I know, the Brick, this is for you. Ow! Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, Mr. Quachek, for those words in remembrance of Mr. Brickhouse. And for the honest truth, we all know he was loud, but we also know that humble spirit, that gentle giant, as we said before. And I have no doubt who was the loudest howl. I have no doubt about that. You don't even need to ask. So thank you for remembering and continuing, and for reminding us to use his legacy and his life to become better. And really what it is, I believe there's always a lesson in depth for the living. And the lesson is to take upon what he has now left us and pass the torch to us to become better and to live life every moment. So thank you for reminding us of that. Next, we're going to bring up childhood and longtime friend, Ms. Adrienne.
I'm not sure I like that childhood friend thing. Rick and I were friends from childhood. We grew up in the church together. And as childhood friends, and you know how people do in church, we got in trouble together in church. But some of our fondest memories, and my friend Pam and I were talking about this, is when we were growing up, Rick had a car. And if you know, as Mike said, Brick was loud. And when Brick would come to pick us up in the car, no matter where you lived, if you lived at the beginning of the block or if you lived at the end of the block, when Brick got to your turn, he would lay on that horn. And he would lay on that horn until you came out. And my dad used to always say, always know when that boy's coming, because he would just lay on that horn. And one of my fondest memories of Brick, and I was thinking about this yesterday, was when I went away to college and I had a roommate, and one weekend, all of my roommates went home and I was there all by myself. And I remember calling Brick and he said, "Hey, JP, what you doing?" And I said, "I'm here all by myself." And he said, "Not for long." And he got in his car and he drove way over there to Norfolk so that he could be with me, so that I wouldn't have to spend the night by myself. And when you think about what a friend he really was a friend. We had loads and loads of fun. We had lots of laugh sessions, all of us at St. Paul. But we were a family. We were more than just a few people who went to a church. We were a family. And we had lots of friends, and we had lots of fun. So if I could just paraphrase my relationship with Brick, and if I could use the words of one of our favorite singers, I would say, "Brick, you are my friend. You hold my hand. You might not say a word, but I see your tears when I show my pain. You are my friend. I never knew it till then, my friend. I feel your love when you're not near. It helps me make it through knowing you care. The thought of you helps me carry on. When I feel all hope is gone, I see the world with brand new eyes. Your love has made me realize my future looks bright to me. Oh, because you are my friend. Not you were my friend, you are my friend. And you will always be my friend. I love you, Brick.
Thank you, Ms. Buckner, for those words as well, reminding us just to think about how many friends he has. It takes a great soul to be able to touch people, not only just here in the community for so many years, but now students and people that have worked with them across the nation, and I dare to say across the world, that is in a better place and can always remember their kind spirit of Mr. Brickhouse. Now we're going to bring up a former co-worker as well and longtime friend for her reflection, Ms. Josephine Jones.
My friend, Mr. Brickhouse. Many people call my friend by his first name, Anthony. Some called him Brick, some called him Tony. But for me, I have always called him Mr. Brickhouse, and he has always called me Mrs. Jones. That was the respect that we have, that we gave to each other. He was such a good friend and like a brother to me. He lived well, laughed all the time, and loved much. His greatest ambition was to touch the lives of all children, especially the high-achieving dreamers of Achievable Dream. When Mr. Brickhouse had his pacemaker surgery, he recuperated at our home for about 2 weeks. We had a ball talking and eating and telling tall tales about our experiences, reminiscing about good times, and most of all, thanking God for good health and prosperity. Mr. Brickhouse was very active in the community, and he loved being a part of all fun-loving groups and organizations. When he heard me talk about my exuberant group called the Happy Bunch, he immediately wanted to become a part of it. Our last memory and activity was the birthday drive-by that we gave him for his birthday on Sunday, November the 15th. Each group member was there and so much love and fun was given to him. He said that this was one of the best birthday celebrations that he had ever had. I just want to let you know that Mr. Brickhouse is not dead, for he is still very much in our hearts, our minds, our soul. For scripture tells us that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I take great comfort knowing that Mr. Brickhouse is present with the Lord. A life well lived is Mr. Brickhouse's legacy. This is the poem that I would like to read on behalf of the Happy Group, and it is entitled, I'm Free. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work, to play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I found that peace at the close of the day. If my pardon has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's better than blessed by the Master's touch. God wanted me to know He set me free to live with Him eternally. Rest on His purpose.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for that and for ending on that poem, I'm Free. We often see that sometimes on programs and funerals and memorial services as a reminder. You know, he has now gained his reward. So he's gained his heavenly reward. So thank you for reminding us of that. We will now have the reading of the obituary by Tara Harris, and directly following that, we have a short video that we will play in remembrance of Mr. Brickhouse.
Anthony Lee Brickhouse passed away suddenly on Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. He is survived by a brother, Ronald H. Brickhouse, Janice, nephews, Ronald H. Brickhouse Jr. and Andre Brickhouse, Latrice, and many great nieces, great nephews, cousins, a host of friends, and many dreamers, teachers, faculty, and staff from the Achievable Dream Academy in Newport News, Virginia. where he served for over 30 years as a security officer. Always exuberant and joyful, Mr. Brickhouse leaves a void in the Newport News community. His joy was building relationships with generations of students and families at the academy, and his infectious enthusiasm and positivity impacted everyone who knew him. From his family at an Achievable Dream Academy, to know Mr. Brickhouse was to love him. He was a gentle giant, the sunshine on a cloudy day, a hero for our dreamers, and simply put, the heartbeat of an Achievable Dream Academy. You are forever, Mr. Brickhouse. Your Tile 1 and Tile 2 is now surrounded by billowy clouds and heavenly gates.
Thank you. At this time, those that are watching virtually, you all will be able to view the video. Those that are in attendance, we have your email addresses, and so we will email the same video to you all as well. We'll be back after the video.
Question for you. How come you always have this infectious energy? I wish I could be as energetic as you. Where does that come from?
I don't know. Well, yes, I do. It's because of the kids. The kids are my power source. I just love being around the kids. The kids are awesome. And they just make me feel good. They're just amazing group of kids.
I couldn't agree more.
One thing about Achievable Dream, we don't do regular. It's a little bit above and beyond elementary school / middle school setting. Hey, Mr. Man! Hey, baby boy.
Mr. Brickhouse is a staple of the community and of our school. He has seen generations of parents and grandparents and students come through the program. And so he brings a sense of calmness and reassurance. His smile and his laughter is absolutely infectious. He keeps us on our toes. And so we appreciate the support and the work that he does every single day.
keep up the good work. Don't be great, be phenomenal. Love you.
You watch that video and the memories and you hear that voice, you know, the loud voice, and for some of us, it's still hard to believe, you know, that the guy that you walked in that door 30 plus years is no longer here. You know, we're still wrapping our brain around, you know, what happened, you know, and to hear that he just had a birthday celebration a few short days before, you know, reminds us that we're not given or guaranteed a single moment, you know, and Mr. Brickhouse lived every single day knowing that any day could be his day, you know, and as I thought about it, you know, and this day and the time and all that is going on, I pondered the question, you know, the question of where do we go from here? You know, sometimes, you know, people ask the question, you know, especially with 2020, you know, it has really given us a lot of times with COVID and with the racial, you know, inequities and the social unrest going on, and then the thousands of deaths that are here, and not just about, but close to home, you know, it really has presented lots of opportunities for us to ask the question, where do we go from here? Sometimes in deaf people, they ask this question, they say, well, what will happen next? And I caution people about asking it that way, you know, because when you ask that question, sometimes you get an answer, and an answer you really don't want. So you don't really want to ask the question, what's going to happen next? But you know, Dr. Reeland, as leaders of organizations, sometimes we do have to ask the question, where do we go from here? Knowing that there are people that are looking at us and expecting answers from us and expecting us to be strong. Even when we're dealing with our own internal struggles, we have to then, Jeff, stand up and say, we understand your pain and we're here for you. And as Ms. Harris, as you said, with empathy, we understand that, where you are. And so we ask the question as an organization and as a Dreamer family and as a Southeast community family, where do we go from here? And not just as an organization, but I know, Ms. Harris, you laid awake a few nights, you know, wondering now that I have to now put on this face where not only a friend of mine and a coworker that I work with side by side, and not only coworkers and my staff members that are coming to me and expecting me to lift them up and coming to me to comfort them, and not only the staff members, but the children that now in 2020, when they left the building, had two pillars of the community who will not be there when they return. And so I know you asked the question as a leader now and as a principal of the building, where do we go from here? And not only that, there's countless parents that are watching that Mr. Brickhouse touched them. And even now, Sabrina, there are some families and parents that work in that same building, but have to now decide, how do I tell my children who go to that school that he is no longer here? Where do we go from here? And I think about it, you know, as I think about it, and those of us of faith, we look to certain things for answers. When we can't find the answers ourselves, there has to be an answer somewhere for us to help us get through these times of emotional pain and these times of struggle. There has to be something to help guide us, because surely, God, you won't leave us this way. You won't leave us in this pain without answers. And so we go to look for those answers. And as I thought more about it, I'm reminded of someone kind of that came about and came into earth and didn't come from many much riches or fame, you know, kind of similar to Mr. Brickhouse. You know, it didn't come from with the silver spoon in his mouth. And some would probably say he's from the opposite side of the tracks. You know, I'm kind of reminded of that. And then I'm reminded of someone who knew he had a mission, Mr. Kessler, as you said, to the people here on earth, Mr. Kwachek, to make people better, a little better on earth. I'm reminded of someone who came and knew that it wasn't about him, that his life really wasn't about him, but it was about others, and making sure I was that sunlight for others. Where do we go from here? And I'm also reminded of that guy who was probably on the cross that one day, as he looked down and saw people that, the very same people that he would help in his lifetime, his very short lifetime, those same people who was now yelling, crucify him. I can imagine seeing him on the cross and looking down, but then also looking up to his father and say, Father, where do I go from here? I know you sent me to do your work and to make this place better, but they got me on this cross right now. And I gave my life for them. Why can't they see that? But where do we go from here? And as they laid him in that tomb, you know, I knew he cried out. And this isn't the Bible, so don't go fact check it. You know, this is just my own thoughts on things right now. You know, so just work with me. You know, so it isn't in the Bible, but I imagine as he laid there that first cold night in that tomb, that he asked the question, Father, I need to hear from you. Where do we go from here? And he sat there with no answer. You know? And that second day came. That second day came, and I know he was growing unrestful. You know, I'm down here by myself, nobody to talk to. It is cold, and I'm shivering, and nobody is visiting me. The people I can't protect turn their backs on me. I need somebody to tell me, Father, please, where do we go from here? No answer on that second day. And as I thought more about it, you know, I thought about that next morning, you know. Early in that morning, as he was laying there in that tomb, and he laid there for a few days without an answer. And so he probably became discouraged. It's like, well, this is where I'm going to be. My mission then must have been fulfilled. But I believe that there was a crackle in the sky. You know, I believe there was a rumbling of thunder. I believe that this great voice came and said, my son, I have not forsaken you. I left you down there to ponder and to think, and again, this is just my own interpretation, but I left you down there just to think a little bit on that, because I needed you to 100% solely trust me. Not in yourself, but I needed you to trust me. And so the only way I could get you to trust me is to really reflect by yourself and spend some time with yourself and just think about what I can do and what I said I sent you to do. And so as I think about that thing, and I say it now, and God said, now, son, you asked me the question numerous times, where do you go from here? And I want you to know right now I'm showing up in it because I have an answer for you. And as I think about Mr. Brickhouse too, I think about the connection here, and I can see God talking to his son and say, you asked the question, where do we go from here? On this third day, this morning right now, my answer is this: we rise. And the good part about that is you just don't rise now, son. You have paid the price, so not only you can rise, but you go out in that world and you make sure everybody else rises on your shoulders. And when I thought about that, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? And we all heard about our Mr. Brickhouse lives his life. We know that for everything there is a season. There's a season to plant, and there's a season to then pluck up which is planted. And so Brickhouse lived his season every single day. He lived his life every single day, knowing that one day he had to lay down so that us as a family could rise. We can stand on his shoulders now and rise. For Achievable Dream and Southeast Community, where do we go from here? Just like God told Jesus, we said we got Mr. Brickhouse, who now has showed us the way how to be a better American. He has showed us a way how to be a great family member. He has showed us a way how to be a mentor. And now he has left and he has put us on his shoulders so that we can rise. And so in all this turmoil and all of these things and all of the times that we can look down and remember the bad things, but when we reminisce on the good things of Mr. Brickhouse, and we reminisce on the good things of Hector Martinez Jr., and when we reminisce and think about the good things of Coach Mason, all of those have now gone before us so that we as an organization can rise. And now the question I ask each and every one, now that they have showed us how to live, now that they have modeled for us what it is to live your life, not just for you, but for others. So my question now is, to each of you, are you ready to rise? Will you honor Mr. Brickhouse? Will you honor his life? Will you honor his legacy? Or allowing him to live through you as he has paid the price, lifted us higher, and allowed us to rise. Will you pray with me? My. God, we come to you at such a time as this. We come with heavy hearts and confused minds and troubled spirits. But even in the midst of that, we know that Mr. Brickhouse is there beside you saying, look at my family. Thank you, God, for giving me such a family. Thank you for blessing me for many years now to know the people that I have known and be able to come across. They, Mr. Brickhouse, we want to say, we know that you're saying thank you for us, but it is our time now to honor you, my friend and my brother. It is our time to say thank you for the countless laughs, the countless smiles. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for even seeing before we knew it ourselves if we were having a rough day. Thank you for that infectious smile. For that spirit that knew how to take a bad day and turn it upside down, if only for a moment. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for not worrying about chasing fame or being wanted to be famous. Thank you for making an impact in this community because you know that is what you were called to do. Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you for all of the moments that you protected your family and your babies. And thank you, no matter what, if anybody had a crossword to say about any of your children in this building, you were quick to correct them and say, you will not kill them out. I came from the same situation, and even though I'm maybe not in a place where you may think I'm successful, but my babies and my beautiful girls are going to be successful because I'm modeling the way that they should live. And I'm telling them that they are somebody, even when there may be people that saying they aren't. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being true to yourself. My, if we all could just take a page of that book right there and say, stay true to who you are. Don't be swayed by the left. Don't be swayed by the right, but walk with integrity so that when you do lay down, people will honor you. My, in the way that you live. There's an old song my grandma used to love to say, may the work I've done speak for me. God, we want to thank you for blessing us with the season of Mr. Brickhouse. Forever Brickhouse, forever Brickhouse, forever Brickhouse. God, we thank you. And now there will come a time where we too will meet that same destination. There will come a time where we will lay down this earthly body. And God, when that time comes, we pray that we have lived our life as Mr. Brickhouse did, moment by moment, lived every moment to glorify you. Not just with our lips and our lip service, but in our actions and our deeds. Until that time, show us the way, God. Show us the way. Just guide us to where we need to be. Where we need to be, as Mr. Brickhouse said in the video, we don't do average here, God. So allow us to be the beacon of light for this community. Allow us to be the pathway for so many unspoken children that need somebody to speak for them. Allow us to stand boldly on your word and to stand firm in righteousness and do what's right by you. Walk with us and be with us, God, right now in these times. Bring us closer together as a family. Allow us to remain connected as one another and lift each other up in a time of need, knowing that it is through that we stay connected. And the only way that we can make this world a better place is one by one as individuals. And so that until that time that we see you again, until that time we see that gate open up by Mr. Brickhouse, God, protect us, watch over us, and keep us as only you know how. These and all other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for attending this service, this memorial service, this celebration of life. Remember, life is not guaranteed. Each moment you have is a moment to touch somebody and make this world a better place. God bless you.